Well, good Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I'm Steve Novotney, live in the oldest studio in the city of Wheeling, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, my house was, the deed says it was constructed in 1900, but we have maps that show it back in the 1880s. So it's pretty much the oldest studio in town. My first guest today, ladies and gentlemen, is Ohio County Sheriff Tom Howard. Tom, my good friend, he used to do an hour-long segment with me back in the day, and Tom's going to start doing that again with me right now. So, Tom Howard, welcome to the show, Sheriff.
Hi, Steve. Glad to be here.
How we sound there? Am I loud and clear?
Loud and clear.
All right. Now Chief Deputy John Schultz, not there yet, but hopefully John will be able to join us here in a little bit because, hey, Tom, did he like the story that I wrote about him, about his career and everything?
Yes, he did.
All right.
He's just walked through, Steve.
Oh, good.
So he's
now,
here.
So far with the speakerphone on, I can't hear me back. That's what I was worried about. So, John, how are you, my man?
Just one day at a time, Steve.
Yeah, I know. Get a little closer to Tom. You guys have quarantined this whole time. I just need you both, near the phone, as close to the phone as possible, okay?
All right, we got you.
All right. How's everybody? Well, Tom, first, you told me something today, and I want the listeners and lead readers to know this. Folks, when I label a story fake news, that's exactly what it is. But unfortunately, Sheriff Howard has received some phone calls, even though his name is backward in the story. You've received some phone calls from local residents that think it's real.
Yeah, I've got a few that think it's real, and I kind of laugh, let them off the hook.
I mean, you've told these residents that, I notified you about the story. It's satire. It's me goofing around. The third part we'll publish this evening on LEDE News, and then I'll finish it up tomorrow, and then I'll start a new LEDE News. When I do these, Tom, John, I don't know if they're going to turn into these mini-series or not, but let's just say I wanted to have a little bit of fun with it because, I know a lot about Roney's Point, the mansion, and the hospital as well.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So have people missed hearing you two on the air?
Oh, yeah, we've had comments when we were going to go back on and everything, and then so yeah, I think they enjoyed it. I think they enjoyed us coming on every couple of weeks and just explaining what's going on in the county.
Yeah, exactly. And when you ran the first time before you were elected in 2016, you came on the radio and you said, "Hey, if the people choose me, I'll be more than willing to do the show, just to be as transparent as possible." And that is something that you both, along with Drage, the other chief deputy, and your entire department, that's been a breath of fresh air, quite frankly.
I always believe in putting it out there and letting everybody know what's going on. Yeah, being transparent. Yeah.
Yeah, in this day and age in politics, I think people are starting not to like the word transparent.
Transparency,
that's the political climate, and it shouldn't bleed into Ohio County, guys, but I believe it has, and but I can tell everybody, listen, Tom, John, Drage, your sheriff of Ohio County will offer as much information as he possibly can, unless it's with an ongoing investigation, because you can't put certain things out there, because if the guy or girl's not behind bars, you don't want to feed them that info.
That's correct. Well, that's why we started doing the call logs. Everybody gets the call logs and know what's going on.
Right. Now, we've got a lot to cover today. You've always covered the county, and of course, LEDE does the same thing, especially the massive project taking place along the 14 and a half miles of Interstate 70 in Ohio County. And, the westbound, it was finished on schedule. The eastbound now is really, the sights, we'll never see it again in our lifetimes. And it's just amazing to see. Well, yesterday it was amazing to see the eastbound lanes in the Fulton area. Well, they're gone. It's just weird.
Yeah. Yep, completely gone. Something our whole lives have been there, and now they're gone.
Well,
it'll be interesting.
You guys had to be impressed with Swank meeting the first deadline, because let's face it, when we do our little ride-arounds, it looked like, even in, July, it looked like a massive amount of work still needed to be done, and that there was no way. We're not engineers, we're not construction workers, but it just, to a lay person, it looked as if it was just too much to get done, especially during this pandemic.
Yeah, we definitely questioned it, but I'll give kudos where they're due. They got it done, and I was in the timeline too, so.
Yeah,
they did good.
That was impressive. John, do you feel the same way? I don't think you and I have actually talked about the accomplishment of meeting that deadline of November. Well, it was around what? Some of the westbound lane opened in late October, and then the rest of it, it opened up just a few days later. Were you impressed, John?
I was, and I tell you what, very pleased. And I hope the next part of this goes just as quickly and everything falls into place. It'd be fantastic.
When Tom and I did that ride around, it's the same impression. You just see the amount of work that they have to do, especially immediately east of Wheeling Tunnel, where that's pretty much all bridge until you finally get into that straightaway toward Washington Avenue. And there's a lot of other things taking place. And John, do you remember what entrance ramp to I-70 I referred to in the beginning as a death trap in Elm Grove?
Oh, yeah, the 5.
Yeah, the 5. Tom and I parked in a pretty he's down below. We were by Pizza Hut, just looking up to where the interstate actually fell through into the creek. And
I remember it.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah. We're back there, and Tom goes, "Steve, I know you hate it, but there's a really good photo up here." So we went and everything, and then we had to mud dog our way out of it because, with the big thaw this week, everything's really, really smooshy.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, it is.
So what about traffic? Everything going, the way you need it to go?
It's working out okay. The crashes really make it a mess. We've had a couple at the 7, shutting we had another one last night, shut one lane down for a while. We had that accident the week before where the tractor trailer basically split in half and shut down a couple lanes for a while. And then we finally got one open and then had to shut it down later to get the truck out. But for the most part right now, it's going okay. But you'll have some lane changes coming up that's going to make it a little touchy.
I've heard some people not real pleased about coming down Wheeling Hill, getting stuck in the traffic at National Road. Key times during the day, that is backing up, but it's to be expected, to everything's accomplished.
Sure. Now, guys, Tom, in one story that we had on LEDE, you mentioned that downtown ramp, that downtown exit off of the Port Henry, that should be closing. Does either one of you know when that ramp will close coming into downtown?
We don't have a date yet. We just know it's going to eventually close for approximately 4 months.
120 days.
So it's going to be interesting when that shuts down, and hopefully that timeline sticks and they get it fixed fairly fast. But it's going to be a rebuild project too. So that's going to hamper a lot of things. Dump a lot of traffic because he's going to go straight on to Route 2.
Or, I-470, are you aware whether or not ODOT will allow Swank or whomever to place an extraordinary amount of signs, before the I-470 split near St. Clairsville, out near the mall?
ODOT has been working very well with the DOH in West Virginia. They've got a big computer sign over there to advise people way before it. and they'll put a lot of signage up. They're very, very good to work with.
Well, we do have to tell people, guys, that, if you are attempting to access downtown Wheeling, you certainly can do it with I-470. I-470 will dump you down into center Wheeling, near Center Market. So you have that option. But you also have the option, or you will have the option when that ramp does close, to continue through Wheeling Tunnel, make sure you're in the left lane, and take that East Wheeling, West Virginia 2 exit, and then you can take the 16th Street exit and get into downtown on the back end.
Yeah, I think when they do that, they're not going to have an option. They're going to have to be in the left lane the way they're going to set it up, I believe.
Yeah, it looks that way.
Yeah, so at least how we think they're going to do it. They're going to set up so you have to go on the left side of the tunnel to go, so you go right up the 250 ramp to get to downtown, or you continue straight through.
Sure.
But there's nowhere to go. You can't go straight through. But yeah, you're going to have to go the 250 ramp to Route 2. There's not going to be an option.
No, not unless you just want to go ying, 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 ying. Down in.
There'll be no other traffic. They'll have the one side shut down anyway, so you only have the option to go that way. That's it.
Right. And I'm sure that everybody listening in YouTube remember when Velada was in town trying to make tiles stick to the Wheeling Tunnel. That was.
I'll revisit that.
Well, hold on. That was supposed to be a 111-day project that turned into a 3-year melee.
Yes. Myself and Chief both worked that.
I'm sure you did. Now, it's number one, it was that whole story got to be very, very interesting because, they had to order the tiles from Germany because those kind of tiles are not manufactured in America anymore. And when Gus Swade, I think Gus did a great job as the district engineer, when I just happened to mention making Wheeling Tunnel look like the Partridge Family bus, he told me that wasn't technically authorized to do by the federal government. You couldn't do those like you can't make something along a federal interstate unique like a Partridge Family bus tunnel. But I thought it was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, they you got to go a lot of federal guidelines to follow, and that's that goes from doing stuff like that with the tunnel to the speed limits and everything. There's all kinds of to the amount of signage you're allowed to put up. A lot of federal guidelines you got to follow. Everybody's stuck following.
They don't let you deviate from it.
No, they don't. And it was weird to me for a long time, and I did write a story about it. You guys are aware of all those blue attraction signs along the interstates, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you know that from the Elby's Bridge near Perkins, that used to be Elby's, and through the tunnel, no more signage is permitted, not only by DOH, but also the federal government, because it's already too busy, and it's one of 3 areas where a federal interstate continues with one lane heading toward a border. So no attraction sign for downtown Wheeling.
Yeah, I mean it's very limited on what you put up there, and if you think about it, you go out through there, tons of signage already up.
Yeah,
and it makes it difficult. Yeah, it makes it, and you said it makes a lot of noise, basically getting out through there. Detractors when you're driving.
Right. Now, local media covered some upcoming lane restrictions along Interstate 70. Guys, why don't you tell us about that?
First, we're going to have reduced lanes going westbound.
Yeah, westbound lane restriction across the Fulton Bridges. So they have to work from the Fulton Bridges to work onto the new bridge, Eastbound. Yeah. So that'll be a major reduction there. They're going to reduce one lane, so that's going to cause probably a little bit of traffic issue, and the rest of it's going to be closures and then lane shifts in different areas. That's going to be the big switch there. They'll start doing that shortly, where they have some parts are done, so they're going to switch over the traffic to that lane so they can finish the other side.
The upcoming months.
So that's going to happen quickly. It'll start, and more than once we get into good weather, away from our freeze-thaw period that we have right now, we'll start seeing a lot more faster activity, more construction going on. They'll be trying to get some of this other stuff done. That goes clear out through the 5. The 7 supposedly going to be done before the end of the year. That's what we're hoping, get that done and get that all corrected out there. That'll alleviate some traffic issues also.
Now, that odd lane change or crossover after, coming down from the Highlands before the 5, how will that change? Has that been explained to you by either Swank or DOH? Because that is the oddest changeover or crossover that I've ever encountered.
Yeah, you're going to have it how it's going to have 3 lanes on one side because they're going to work on getting the one. So as they shift away, they're getting the one side done on the west or eastbound side. And then, of course, they've got a lane already done on the westbound side, but they're working on getting another one that's done so they can shift more of the traffic this way off of where it's currently traveling on the eastbound side. Because then they can start working on getting that complete. That's all going to happen fairly fast
by spring.
So when spring happens, they're going to start shuffling things around. And that's why they have those medium barriers in there, because it's going to be a huge shift. And honestly, out-of-towners are not used to it. Locals are kind of used to the way it's set up right now. It's shifted already once, but we're going to have a bigger shift, and that still confuses the out-of-towners.
Okay, well, the one thing that the one positive of this massive project, it's an observation. I'm always on the passenger side. It's an observation. You mentioned the local folks and the local motorists, and I've got to give everybody credit that lives in the area. We have learned how to zipper merge.
Yes. Yes. The local residents, county, city, have all worked and are doing well with it. I mean, are there headaches and pains? Absolutely. But they're actually working through it pretty well. But the zipper merge is something I think a lot of people didn't understand. They get irritated over it, but they kind of realize what it's really set up for.
Okay, well, it's amazing. When it first all started, you didn't have a lot of the zipper merging and all that. And, when you come up, say you want to get on the Fort Henry Bridge from downtown Wheeling, and you go, you go Market Street, whatever. There's a lot of cooperation taking place between the people coming from Main Street, the people that are coming from Market Street, and the people that are already on I-70 throughway traffic. It's probably five or six times recently, it was all zippered. I was really impressed and thankful that people were finally doing that in this area.
Yeah, follow the rules.
Yeah,
being courteous. Yeah.
Well, you got that double stop there in the one spot, plus the speed limit's 35, so they've lowered that way down to try and make that
more controlled.
It'll zipper a little easier, if you're not flying along, because you got people coming from the stop merging into moving traffic. So you're supposed to get up to speed, but at that little area there, it's very hard. So they're cooperating quite well.
Well, that's terrific news. It really is. Now, as far as other parts of the project, out by the 7, that's the Middle Creek bridges. That's going to continue being congested. They're working on one side now, not the other. So, the local folks should just be used to this, taking their time and used to the speed limit, 45 from beginning to end. And listen, if they finish the eastbound lanes by November 1, the deadline, I just hope people realize that the other parts of the project are not going to be finished yet. They're still, how many months beyond November 1, Tom? 4 or 5?
A year.
A full year.
This is a 3-year project.
Yeah, but didn't that start? Didn't the counter start counting when they first came into town and started closing this and that?
I think you're going to have it go clear into the end of 2022
Really?
to get everything done, everything
Like
completely done.
November-ish, something like that.
Yeah, so I thought it was like a November
November.
timeline. So
Okay, I have
you
the map. I'll have to take a look at it, or well, it's right here. Let me look. Let's see when they actually say they're finished. Yeah, you're right. It goes to the end of 2021. My proposed schedule does not have any indication that it extends into 2022, though, guys.
Oh, it's not going to be finished this year. You know what? I hope it gets done this year. Great, but I don't think that timeline. I think that timeline's got 2022 involved. They've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they
because
do.
even the Fulton bridges aren't going to be done until November 1.
November 1, right. I'm talking into 2022, and I'm talking after November 1, 2021. You know, it doesn't have it on my proposed schedule, the DOH distributed at their stakeholder meetings and beyond. And it says at the end of what I'm looking at, guys, and I have it right here for the listeners to see that proposed schedule, that it's completed at the end of December. So let's just see. I mean, maybe it'll extend. I think everybody around here is used to it extending.
Yeah. I'll be
Pleased, yeah.
very pleased and thankful if it's finished by the end of this year. That'd be great.
Yeah, and then when does I-470 get the same kind of makeover, because it's ugly?
That's not even in the talks yet. So we'll see what happens with that.
Bridge, Hump Bridge.
Yeah, we've got other projects we know have to be done.
Right.
They're like been pushed back. Downtown Suspension Bridge. You know, what we all local call the Humpback Bridge in Elm Grove. There'll always be projects. I'm kind of hoping they get started on, you know, the new ramp going up to the backside of the Highlands. Hopefully that gets started.
Yeah.
A lot of projects.
Well, and, you know, don't forget the city has to close down the Washington Avenue Bridge for a complete rebuild. They're also talking about the Schilling Bridge in Elm Grove.
And we got the streetscape in downtown, too.
And we have that. And water main starts in the second week of March along Main and 16th Street. All, very necessary structures, or I should say projects. So, I mean, honestly, Michelle and I try to avoid Main and Market Streets whenever it is possible, because it is bumpy, and it's getting bumpier because all of a sudden we have fell upon pothole season.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got a huge – this is one of the harshest winters we've had in a while. So you've got a very big freeze-thaw cycle going on. I mean, we had a lot of cold weather there for a long time. Now everything's thawing. You know, it was for a little while there, it was thawing in the daytime, freezing at night. So that doesn't help at all.
The roads and making us potholes. Yeah. They're coming up quick.
Yeah.
Right. They definitely are. Now, back to I-70, guys. Is speeding still a big-time issue? I get the reports every morning. Thank you, Detective Ernest. And I'm not seeing the outrageous speeding, the outrageous number of speeding tickets being issued, and not real high. It seems as if people have finally caught on, and they've slowed her down at least to 70 and not 105.
Yeah, we've still got speeding going on. We're trying to be out there. We've got some dealing with some manpower issues right now. So we're trying to get out as much as we can out there, but we got to, protect the citizens of Ohio County. So those calls become priority, answering all that stuff. Plus we've got to let it, we're working on our mental hygiene issue.
As we get one right now.
Yeah. That's becoming a lot more out of the area than in the area. So that puts a lot on manpower also. So, you're sending them to Clarksburg, Huntington, Charlestonville. That puts a crunch on that. And when you're running a few men down, it doesn't help any.
It's not a short trip, Steve. I mean,
no.
You take two people away, and then, at any given time, sometimes we have two in one day.
Right.
In
right.
COVID,
No.
Yeah, COVID's not helping. I get that. Has the new psychiatric care unit down at WVU Medicine Reynolds Memorial helped?
In the beginning, it was better. Now, not as much. There's really no room, so most of our trips it might be a temporary, but most of our trips are going south.
Yeah. And some folks, that are more violent can't be there. So it helps, but it's not the cure, Steve.
Yeah, I know. All right, one last topic before our bottom of the hour break. We had a surge of fentanyl here in the area, a rash of overdoses. I believe that I received 2 overdose notices, maybe 3 in 1 week, just a couple of weeks ago. And I understand that those overdoses are still taking place. Guys, tell me about it.
Yeah, it's still going on. We actually had one last night. It came through, but we're working on it. We're working with the task force, the city, and we're all working together. Stuff comes in, and
investigations are happening. So
there's a lot of investigations going on. There's a lot of stuff happening. So some stuff we can't talk about, but it's definitely we're out there. We're trying to prevent it. Unfortunately, you're not catching it all, but I'll give kudos again to our task force. It's a multi-jurisdictional task force that works really well throughout, the city, the county, and the state. I mean, they help throughout the state too at times. So
right.
It's a work in progress, and it's always going to be, unfortunately.
Well, Pinnacle did open a new treatment center up in Brillion, Ohio. One of the biggest issues that we've seen in the Upper Ohio Valley during this drug epidemic is the big lack in treatment. Now, the treatment center up in Brillion, it's not, it's similar to the treatment center out in Dallas Pike. But it's a welcomed addition, in my mind anyway, for the people in East Ohio and here in the Northern Panhandle. Do you guys agree?
To a point. The problem is we have a lot of what I call starter help, but there's no aftercare.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no follow up with a lot of stuff, and we've talked a lot about it. The legislature's trying to work into stuff. It's just not there in West Virginia.
And that cycle starts all over again.
Yeah. They get a little bit of help, they get out, there's no aftercare to help them, and they get right back in their same cycle, and it just becomes a full circle for them.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it helps somebody. The good Lord knows that we need some help in the Upper Ohio Valley with this epidemic. And I don't think anybody is ignoring it any longer because, quite frankly, I don't think they can. I think it's touched their families. I think it's touched their immediate families, friends. Unfortunately, you see it on Facebook almost daily, gone too soon, things like that. And I just really, I despise seeing those kind of posts.
Yeah. Well, out there, unfortunately, if you look, there's probably very few families, and I mean very few, if any, that are not affected in some way, family, friend, that is affected by the,
right,
the overdose.
The impact is large.
It covers so many people.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take the bottom of the hour break, guys. I'm going to mute your phone, but you just stay there. We're only going to take a few minutes, and we'll come right back for part 2, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, when we get to, ladies and gentlemen, when we get to the second segment, several topics. It is budget time for the Ohio County Sheriff's Office, just as it is for all county departments. Those budgets have to be turned in by next Tuesday. And, of course, the Ohio County Sheriff's Office, they do so much more. Those deputies do so much more than what most people imagine. And, the mental hygiene transports, that's one of them. That's in state code. We're also going to talk about the PRO program, the Prevention Resource Officer program. We're going to talk about budget cuts, budget changes, and the number of deputies that are now employed. by the Ohio County Sheriff's Office. So we'll go ahead and take that bottom of the hour break. Be back in a few moments. I'm Steve Novotney. It is Steve Novotney Lives on LEDE News. Want to notify everybody before we get into our second conversation with Chief Deputy John Schultz and Ohio County Sheriff Tom Howard that Steve Novotney Lives can now not only be heard and seen on Facebook Live, but also on LEDE News this evening, on Spotify, Podbeam, YouTube, Google, Apple, and iTunes, along with Listen Now. So we're on a bunch of networks, and I hope everybody can find the show, quite frankly. Again, Ohio County Sheriff Tom Howard, Chief Deputy John Schultz on the program. And gentlemen, it is budget time. You know that very, very well. How's the budget looking right now? Tom, I'll go to you since you have the accounting degree from West Liberty State College.
Well, I'm working through it still. There's a lot of stuff items where, trying to go over past bills and stuff and trying to, a lot of stuff went up this past year. Plus I do 3 budgets between the law enforcement side, the tax side, and our home confinement. So it's 3 different budgets that I work through myself. So it just keeps me busy. I'll be busy on the weekend working on them too, trying to make sure everything's as close as I can to get it accurate. Working through some figures with the commission.
I got you. Now, I understand one cut that will take place or has taken place. You can verify. Tom, when I first started interviewing you during your campaign, one of your giant goals was to have a prevention resource officer in every school in Ohio County, public school and you were working on grants and you got some grants and after your first 4 years you had not yet achieved that goal, but it was a goal for the second term because both you and John, you were both prevention resource officers for 6 years. So the value of the program. That it helps with the relationship between the public and law enforcement. That relationship has been very, very strained. And Tom and John, you have both told me stories about, those kids, now graduates, now even college graduates, coming up to you and say, "Hi, Officer John. Hi, Officer Tom." Those 6 years meant a lot to you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Like you said, we have a lot of contacts out there, college students, kids have graduated college. Goes clear back to our DARE program back in 2007. So we, and it makes you feel good too when you run into them. They remember you, and you get to talk to them, and
the impact you made in their lives at that time. You were there to help them and guide them. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
I get a kick out of obviously a lot of students still they call you, Officer Tom or Officer John, and some of the parents have corrected him at times and tell him, he's a sheriff or he's a chief, and I tell them, leave him go. That's how they know me.
Yeah.
And the kids like, yeah, I know him as he'll always be Officer Tom, and I still have parents call me that, and I just kind of snicker. But I'm a true believer in this program. As we talked, I'm kind of upset right now with it, and not with the program, with what's going on. To remove them from the schools and just have people not willing to work and together to get this accomplished is sad.
Right. Now, I understand one cut, Middle Creek Elementary, the one that's out in the county. Is that the only public school? No, we have West Liberty Elementary out in West Liberty as well.
Well, you got Bethlehem. It's actually in the county. That's, we took care of that one too. We take care of all the schools, and we teach DARE, and we taught DARE in like 13 schools. That's in jeopardy now also because the officer at Middle Creek took care of 4 DARE schools. Elementary's teaching DARE, and now we're going to have a really hard time filling that, which I don't think we can.
Right.
We don't have. He had to go back to patrol. not by our doing, not by the sheriff's office doing. We were basically told they didn't want them there. And
You mean the school system, Ohio County Schools, says that we don't need them?
Yes, we're not funding it. Yeah, they're not funding anything, and that that stuff back and forth between the commission and the school board, and I don't have the funding. That's they told us get them out. We got them out. We had to, and it's upsetting to some parents, upsetting to the kids, and it's very upsetting to me and John, and because how big I am with this program and how much this program means.
Right. Now, Middle Creek, like I said, that's the one out in the county. We know that when the flood happened back in 2001 in September, those Middle Creek kids had to be taken up the hillside to the interstate to be able to get away from that flooding.
Yeah, that was a potential scare they had out there, but that was a whole thing out there. I got a little out of hand, but that's very true. They took them up there to get them up and away from the school in case that did happen.
Right.
And nobody got hurt. Thank goodness. We don't want we're protective over children. We don't want anybody to get hurt.
Sure.
And it was just that school's out there. It's not easy to get to.
No, it takes a little while to get to Middle Creek. That is for sure. Now, Middle Creek, the prevention resource officer isn't there. What about the other schools in the other PROs? Will they be remaining in place?
Well, at this point, it's not looking very good.
Manpower constraints make a difference, Steve. I mean, we were told that 3 were definitely going to come rather soon.
Yeah,
and we got to cover the mental hygiene and everything else. When you don't have the manpower, you can't do much.
Yeah, it's not by our choice. It's just something where we talked about, but my budget's due the 2nd, so I've got to have stuff figured into my budget where people are going to go. That's from us mandatory bailiffs for courts. We have to mental hygiene can pop up any minute. There's so many things that are tasked in the code. It's the sheriff's department responsibility.
Right.
Now we're working with legislature on some things, but in the time when you don't have the manpower out there, we're pulling in overtime, but you only work so much overtime, guys get wore down, and we're out on the roads ourselves doing stuff, and right now we're in limbo with sheriff's camp. I'm trying to get answers. We have a major donor
and a deadline
that I need to know, and
it's in jeopardy.
So it's sheriff's camp, which we brought, we originally brought it up a couple years ago from Charleston to West Liberty University. You were generous enough to come up and run your show at that time. At the camp, the kids had an awesome time.
Yeah.
Large number.
We were planning on it again this year. We've got a lot of stuff in the works. West Liberty University is awesome to work with. They've been a major sponsor, but we can't get an answer from our other sponsor to commit, basically. Yeah. So it's in jeopardy right now.
I can tell you both that I thoroughly enjoyed meeting those kids, and the second best part was that it was taco day in the cafeteria.
Yeah, that was one of the first times in the camps that they had. We definitely made sure the kids were fed. Sometimes they struggled with, having, food for the kids, quality food. And as the cafeteria up at West Liberty University is not just cafeteria food.
No,
they do awesome job up there.
Yeah, made me jealous. Made me jealous, and it should have made you guys jealous too.
Yeah, when we were up there, that wasn't when we were up there.
No, we ate cereal most of the time because what was behind the line just didn't look good.
Yeah, up there when this stuff. Now, the camp up there starts 7:00 in the morning. They're not done till nighttime, and those kids on Friday are giving everybody hugs and just you have tears in their eyes, and then all the deputies that come from all over the state, including our deputies here in Ohio County, but we have a lot of volunteer deputies come up from other departments to work with this camp to create this for these children.
And it's a leadership camp, so
Yeah.
it's above and beyond. It has a goal and a purpose.
Yeah.
Teaches them to learn how to lead and, to work with others. It's just
A lot of that too, being with the campus, you have a lot of seniors who have never seen a college campus.
That's right.
Even juniors. So they got the opportunity and they were like, wow, so this is a college campus. Of course, we brought West Liberty University and let them show, this and talk to them and explain things. So, I mean, it opens up so many opportunities for these students to see. And it's not just a high county. It's almost most of the counties in the state send at least one or two.
Right.
So we have, upwards of 150 students that do really well at the sheriff camp.
Now, as far as the PROs, ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking with Ohio County Sheriff Tom Howard and Chief Deputy John Schultz. Down in Marshall County, they have resource officers, okay? Here in Ohio County, we have prevention resource officers. Tom, why don't you go ahead and explain the difference between the two?
Well, the SROs are basically in the schools. They act more of a security. They don't have a lot of interaction. With the PRO program, Prevention Resource Officers, they are mandated to teach classes. So they teach all kinds of what they call non-traditional classes. They'll go in, they work with the teachers, but they'll do all kinds of classes, whether it's drug prevention, alcohol, so many different things they work with, and they mentor the children. So they'll work with them. And I'm talking, we're down from kindergartners, pre-kindergarten, clear up to 12th grade. We have the DARE program. All our deputies had them DARE certified because the DARE program goes clear up to 12th grade now. So, and it's stuff, it talks depression, just so many different aspects they get to work. And, when me and John heard these kids would come to us all the time, can I talk to you? Or, they didn't want to sit with the principal or the teacher. They wanted to come talk to us and talk things out. So they would choose, a law enforcement over talking to a school staff member.
I got you.
So it's the relationship, and that I like to think in this valley, and I always talk very highly of this valley, how much of a great relationship law enforcement has with the citizens. And we want to keep it that way. I'm very big in the community. You know that.
Yep.
We like to stay out in the community. John's dedicated to that. The whole department's dedicated because they know that I'm very big on community and working with them. I got to give kudos out, Reverend Cummings. We love working with him. We participate in every event we can with him. But there's just so many things out there that, and that helps with the students. These guys, go to calls or they'll say, hey, can I talk, to, my PRO, whoever it may be, instead of another officer. The handle with care. The handle with care is a huge aspect. If there's something going on, something happened, they make sure that the schools know, and of course nobody else, but they know that, if little Johnny's acting a little different today, well, maybe something happened to his house last night. So if he's dozing off because he didn't get to sleep all night because something happened or stuff like that, handle with care is huge. We're very big with that. There are just so many things that the PROs do, home visits, making sure the kids are okay. That program goes away. I think it's going to leave it's going to leave a huge hole.
Well, the abuse and neglect, the interdiction that they were able to perform just at ground level with it.
Yeah.
It's just such a positive program.
And John, at one point, and you can offer the specifics if you'd like to, but at one point, as a prevention resource officers, there was a gun in school.
Yeah, gun. Yeah. No one even knew that we were able to solve the situation, had it under control, and none of the staff or any of the wiser. Everybody was safe, and it was quickly handled with the principal and myself. So it's just the information and stuff that you get. Again, as Tom said, through those relationships and and the closeness you work with the staff, it makes such a difference.
And just being that the law enforcement's there to help. And it's a totally different aspect of that law enforcement compared to what they might think. Everyone would call them a street officer compared to what a PRO does. And they work with the kids, and it's an awesome program.
Right.
I love prevention officer, resource officer program, the DARE program. I jumped on to being a state DARE coordinator, because of that, to try and help, get more throughout the whole state, not just Ohio County, but the whole state.
Sure. Now, come the end of the fiscal year, ladies and gentlemen, is July 1. Your budget, Tom, is due March 2nd. We already know a PRO is no longer in Middle Creek Elementary. You said there's a chance the other ones could be pulled too. Tell me why.
Well, we keep being told that there's no commitment. We might want them, we might not want them, we might go a different way. So we don't have an answer. So come July 1, and honestly, I hate saying this, but, we're not feeling welcome at all in the schools. Ohio County Sheriff's Office is not feeling welcome in the schools right now. It's almost like they don't want us there. This has just been a battle trying to, they were battling the contract, and I left the PROs in the school while they talked over this contract. But what it comes down to now is, deputies on the street, deputies in the schools. If they don't want us there, it's their schools, and that's pretty much the feeling we're getting.
Okay, and, we can say July 1 all we want, but, Tom, it sounds as if you need to know by next Tuesday, March 2nd.
Absolutely. The current contract runs out, June 30th. So by July 1, as the way it looks, you're going to see that the PROs will probably be on street patrol.
And not in our schools.
And unfortunately, not in our schools.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I'll add to that, not by my wishes. It's not by the sheriff, because I still will stand by the fact that we need a PRO in every school to protect the kids. A comment was made, unfortunately, by a higher up, that nothing happens in elementary schools, and I'm going to leave it at that because we all know what's happened.
Well, yeah, two words automatically come to my mind: Sandy Hook.
Yes.
And you guys probably know this. I'm not sure how many listeners are aware of the fact that in 2020, the United States of America had the most mass shootings despite the pandemic.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
I can tell how frustrated you are, Tom. In a couple weeks, you're going to be invited back. I hope you come to the oldest studio in Wheeling. I was hoping that could happen today, but, we took care of it on the phone. And I can tell you both, hey, have a great weekend, but I know both of you seldom have a true blue weekend, correct?
No, we're always either on the phone or get a text, have to deal with some stuff, but, that's what we're here for. Both of us do it. We're always talking constantly and, working with our deputies. And if they need something, they contact us, and that's what we're here for. We're out on the roads ourselves. We go out all the time. So we're out there. And
right.
Actually, even at the PROs, we still teach too. So that's another part that with John, we're still active in the schools ourselves. So
I got you. John Schultz, Chief Deputy, Sheriff Tom Howard, thank you so much for the time this afternoon. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
You bet. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. And unfortunately, I have to repeat that it's very possible come July 1, meaning the beginning of next academic year, prevention resource officers, cops, won't be in our public schools here in Ohio County. We'll go ahead and take the break. When we come back, let's see, Mike Hughes, our very own Mike Hughes, he loves covering sports. He also covers news. I'll have a great conversation with Mike in just a moment, right here on Steve Novotney Lives on LEDE News. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Steve Novotney Lives, the second hour. Of course, that means 4 to 5, and then we'll finish up and get on with our weekend at 5 p.m. Again, I want to let everybody know the podcast can be heard. It'll be posted in a little bit on Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, Google, Apple, iTunes. It's also live on TuneIn, and you can get the podcast on Listen Now. Let's go ahead and bring one of LEDE's writers, one of our main writers, Mr. Mike Hughes, is with me. And as I told the listeners earlier, Mike's a big sports guy, loves to write sports, and I make him mad when I ask him to cover news. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Steve? Enjoying your Friday?
It's going well. You know, I mean, doing the podcast is something I'm still learning, but it seems to be going pretty well.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah.
You're still better at it, more experienced than I am, so we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think so. Now, how are you? How's your daughter, Kay? Everybody good?
Oh, yeah, I just graduated from school, so we're heading up to the Highlands for a little bit, and got a few other things going, irons in the fire for tonight.
Okay.
Pocket a few minutes away for it.
You guys getting something to eat up at the Highlands?
Got to pick up the new Xbox at Best Buy. Finally was able to find one.
Oh, okay. What number Xbox are they on now? I haven't played on an Xbox in a lot of years.
You have the Series X, which is a little bit more expensive, slightly better features. Then you have the Series S, which we got because the X is still sold out. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a lot of years. I used to, I don't know what PlayStation, but back when Tiger Woods had his own game, I got big into that. That was a lot of fun. There were a lot of secrets to Tiger Woods golf. But
that's
it was
the only way I
fun.
can be good at golf.
Yeah, honestly, you don't need to be good at the game of golf to be good on a video game of golf.
Thankfully.
Right.
Looking for shag balls.
Right. Now, Mike, you've been very frustrated, what with the pandemic, COVID, and all the restrictions, all the precautions. You know, and it's not been easy for you to cover a lot of the games. You cover for multiple publications, not just LEDE. You know, on LEDE, we don't do game stories. Instead, we do features, and we do situational issue stories, and you've done so very well with those kind of stories. But you know, you attend a lot of games, and you're getting a lot of basketball in. Maybe a little too much basketball, Mike.
I enjoy it, but I could use a breather. But I got a game Saturday night, and then West Virginia girls and boys actually get underway next week. The girls start on Wednesday, and the guys, there's a few games on Saturday, which is when they can start. No, they can start on Friday, but there's a couple on Saturday. So there's not going to be a whole lot of break for me.
Right. Right now, Mike, there's a big difference between what you're allowed to do in Ohio and what you've been allowed to do in West Virginia. As you just said, in West Virginia, winter sports are starting finally after an attempt at 2 weeks of practice, even though the weather interrupted that. Prior to that, it was conditioning. But West Virginia high school teams, no matter what team we're talking about, they've not been able to compete.
No, the girls got about 3 or 4 days of practice in before everything got shut down again. So thankfully, the SSAC allowed people to, you know, do AAU stuff, you know, before the season started. And they've also recently approved allowing them to do AAU at the same time as the high school season. So that way the girls and guys that play AAU basketball that want that exposure can still get it and not miss the first couple bigger tournaments of the season.
Mike, tell me a little bit. What are the benefits? AAU was around, but not as much as it is now, way back when in the dark ages. What are the benefits of playing AAU?
If you're somebody who wants to play college basketball, especially at a higher level, but even, you know, for the Division II and Division III levels, it really helps in terms of exposure. You know, during the season, I mean, coaches can catch games, but they're not going out and hitting high school games all the time like they used to. It's the off season for them in the late spring, early summer, and they're just going out and, you know, hitting the recruiting trail hard, and they can see multiple players at multiple times and just have a better chance of exposure, especially at some of the bigger events.
Right, and you know, recruiting slash, I guess, you know, recruiting has changed. As you said, the coaches aren't out and about. I love, as far as football is concerned, for the guys that want to continue playing football, but they're not D1, so they didn't get those coaches and those scouts. But they want to continue competing while getting their education on the D2, D3 level. Mike Young, Reno Suckosh, and a number of other football coaches in the Upper Ohio Valley, they have had in the past something of a clinic to where college coaches, D2, D3 schools, and the coaches, they're invited, and then those coaches actually promote what players are graduating and still want to play to those D2, D3 coaches. When I found out about that, I thought that was quite a service to our community that all those guys from up and down the Ohio River did that after each football season. Pretty cool stuff, but, with the pandemic, I don't know if that was possible to actually stage this past year. But yeah, scouting / recruiting, it's really changed. A lot of people are just depending on video, and a lot of parents are making promotional videos of their kids playing whatever sport they want to continue in college.
I think the only good part about it is just the amount of video that's out there now that you wouldn't have had before, because not everybody's having to stream so their fans can watch. It was just a lot easier to access. I mean, a lot of it's free. Some places you have to pay for it. At NFHS.com, I have a membership to that, so I can catch a lot of games because I need to see a bunch of different teams. But there's a lot that are streamed for free where you wouldn't have that option in the past.
I got you. Now, we talk about the comparison between West Virginia and Ohio. Ohio has been competing. Winter sports started, when it was winter and when, it normally did pretty much. But they have had some issues in Ohio, have they not, Mike, because of COVID?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of teams like UL, Bridgeport girls, Toronto girls, I think got quarantined 4 different times. A perfect example is Zanesville Rosecrans. I know they're not in the OVAC, but they're just right on the cusp. They play teams in the conference. And they just knocked off higher-seeded Tuskegee Central, Shenandoah, and Caldwell, the girls did, in successive games because they drew an 11 seed. And the only reason they had that is because they only had 3 wins then by the time they did the seeding for the bracket, because they've been quarantined 3 different times. But and they play a very difficult schedule, but realistically, that's probably one of the better 11 seed teams you're going to see, and that's why they're playing Shadyside for the district championship on Saturday.
I got
Just,
you.
you have a lot of situations where teams are missing, sections of their season, but it's more on an individual basis and not like, okay, your county's in orange, you're done for the week.
I got you. Now, and you've covered all that quite well, and, and it's changed your schedule as far as coverage is concerned. You constantly check, just as you have to do on any level of sports. Like the WVU basketball team now has to play 3 games in 1 week because Baylor can't get it straight.
Yeah, it's weird when it affects the major college level, but yeah, they haven't been immune to having the problems either.
No, they really haven't. So high school sports, the winter season, that gets underway next week. I did talk to assistant superintendent here in Ohio County Schools about the Wheeling Park teams. And he said that, sure, Alex Vargo is going to be greatly missed by the Patriots, but they have a solid team with a lot of seniors, a lot of juniors. So the boys team, they're hoping to reach the potential that a lot of people thought that they had last year before COVID shut down the West Virginia High School girls tournament after the first round.
Yeah, I would love to have seen what that Park team could have done down in Charleston. But, obviously Vargo's going to be a huge loss. Saunders is a real nice player. I'm pretty sure he signed with Jesuit.
Yeah, he did.
Sorry.
He did. He signed with Jesuit.
And they have a really strong junior class that were making a lot of contributions last year as sophomores. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare once they get close to tournament time.
Yeah, how about the big, the big transition and the reboot of the Cardinal basketball program, the men's program, and also some of the ladies' sports? It's, there's a lot of success there.
Men are coming around. I mean, they got Jordan Reed. He's probably one of the better players in the conference. A couple guys they got coming in. Price coming back from Central's had a couple nice games for them. They're picking up some wins, and I think Richardson will have that program going in the right direction.
Rick Jones also told me the Park girls team is supposed to be very, very talented, and that Wheeling Park swimmers, they're already committing to colleges, one of whom has already qualified for the U.S. Olympic trials. So a lot of success taking place up on the hill at Wheeling Park. And, Wheeling Central expects to be very competitive. I know Lindsley, Shady Side, a lot of teams. Now, Mike, let me ask you this. Will the East Ohio teams finally be able to start playing the West Virginia teams beginning next week?
As far as winter sports?
Yes.
Or you mean spring sports?
No.
Oh, no.
Winter.
I mean, Ohio's in. Most of the teams have gotten in their 20. Well, not most. There's a good bit of teams that got in their 22 games. Now, I'm pretty sure that even after Ohio has always been after you're eliminated. If you have games remaining, you can schedule them, and there's some teams that have done that. But the girls will be into the regionals, the guys will be in the districts, and there's no chance of playing winter to winter this year for Ohio and West Virginia.
Okay. Now, as far as the OBAC standings are concerned, Mike, do you know if the OBAC is going to separate the basketball standings, or if West Virginia teams' records, while this is a rapid play 6-week season, will they be in the same divisions and just, their records will determine who wins?
As far as I know, everything's going to be based on records. Obviously, there's no tournament. It's just based on how many points you accumulate in the 5 divisions, and the champions will be determined that way.
Okay. Mike Hughes, ladies and gentlemen, with LEDE News. He also writes for the Barnesville newspaper and a couple of other networks. He's on the program now. Mike, it's going to be inevitable. Like I said, a very rapid play 6-week basketball season, and for every other winter sport. But then in March, here comes spring sports. They're allowed to start practicing. They're allowed to start competing. And let's face it, even though some kids are very much specializing in one sport these days, there's a lot of student athletes that play multiple sports, some of which even play a sport each season, fall, winter, and spring. That overlap, do you see that causing some problems?
It could, depending on, some of your bigger schools. I mean, there's guys and girls that play 3 sports all throughout the year, but you don't see it as much. And then when you look at like a smaller school, like say Cameron, you're going to have people that the majority of the athletes are playing 3 sports, one each per season. And sometimes you'll get some that do like say baseball and track, or softball and track. They do both. I know when I talked to Cameron's AD that out of respect for their winter sports programs, because they are expecting a big year for both the boys and the girls basketball teams, that while they can practice for spring sports, they're not going to schedule any games at all until after both teams are eliminated. That way they can kind of focus on the winter, and then those kids can obviously get in workouts with the baseball or softball team or the track team, but they won't schedule any actual athletic events, game-wise or even scrimmages, I don't think, until the winter seasons are over.
Now, I know in West Virginia, those student athletes, male, female, they're going to be able to participate in both sports simultaneously if they can do that. I think that's going to be a little difficult for some of the guys. And as a former a former high school athlete, that situation has allowed me to think, what would I have chosen? Would I have continued playing basketball and baseball at the same time, or would I have just gone to baseball? That's going to be a tough. I think that's going to be a tough decision for a lot of those student athletes, because maybe they want to play one sport like basketball in college but not baseball, so maybe that'll allow them to go ahead and stay with basketball and join baseball when he can, or vice versa. I'm pretty sure I would have chosen baseball over basketball and just done baseball only.
Yeah, that'd be a tough, especially you being a pitcher, that'd have been tough to try to pull off at the same time. I mean, thankfully for me, I wouldn't have had that problem. I only did football and track, so there's a nice big gap in there between. But especially for people that for people that wrestle, I mean, that sport just saps so much of your energy out of you, and then have to do 2 hours of wrestling practice and then go to baseball, or if a girl on the team goes to softball or one of them does track. I mean, I'm sure as a kid, you think you can handle it, and I'm sure there's probably athletes that can do both each day and not see a huge drop off. But I mean, realistically, you expel that much energy all day, you're going to see a noticeable drop in performance, I would think.
Well, think about it though, Mike. I know you didn't play, but you're going to hear a door open and shut here in a second. Okay. But I believe, and if you disagree with me, fine and dandy, I think it would have been really difficult to play basketball and baseball both at the same time, just because of the major, huge differences in the nature of those two sports.
I'm not going to, especially to do it at a high level. Yeah, I can't argue with you there.
Well, I mean, think about it, Mike. If, let's say you were a basketball and a baseball player and you said, damn it, I'm playing both. And you roll your ankle in a basketball game. What are you going to do baseball-wise for a while?
You're going to hold the scorebook.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the only thing I could ever do in basketball was jump. I ran real hard. I hustled. But I had some leaps, but that was about it. So that means I came down on a lot of people and turned a lot of ankles. And I guess that was one of the things that I thought about when I was contemplating, would I do both or would I just pick one or the other? And that really led me to saying, especially if it's my senior year, actually any year, because I knew there was just never a chance of me ever going to college to play basketball. I was horrible. But baseball.
Yeah, baseball is your ticket to go.
Yeah. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy the game even today. And yes, I am a fan, and I am wearing a new pirate hat. Although my son and I have decided that the P on the hat stands for Pittsburgh Prospects.
Yeah, for other teams.
Yeah, we know how that works.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
You know how that works, but
yes, we do.
They got a couple of guys that it's going to be interesting to see if Gregory Polanco can stay on the field for a year.
True. I'm not going to lie. It has been a while since I've actually paid solid attention to the Pittsburgh as far as the Pirates go. I follow the Indians, but I'm just so wrapped up in my own kids' spring sports that I just kind of watch from the periphery. But I probably couldn't name you more than 2 or 3 people on the roster.
No, I know.
I know that's sad, but
honestly, Mike, I'm a Pirate fan. I can't even name that many. I'd have to go back and actually look at the signings and the trades, and there's the one kid that really played well toward the end of last season. His name's not coming back to me, but I'm looking forward to seeing his progress. But as long as the Joe Musgroves, a pitcher that I thought gave you a chance to win, a Josh Bell, not a great first baseman, not even a great hitter, but he was out there every day, and there was always that potential for him to make an impact in the game. Back to high school sports, Mike. Now, as far as the expectations and the teams, tell me over in Ohio, which teams have done very well, and then we'll get to the West Virginia teams. But tell me about East Ohio. I know you said Shadyside is advanced to a title game, but give me the scoop in those divisions.
All right, let's start on the girls' side because they're a little bit further along, and obviously that's what I cover more since I work for PGH. But Division 4, Shadyside's in the district final against Rosecrans, and Rosecrans is the team that upset them last year in the earlier rounds in the district and prevented them from trying to get back to the Final Four again. So I'm sure they're going to be out for revenge, and it should be a nice game because Shadyside's got a lot of talent. Rosecrans has got 3 girls that are 6 foot. It'll be a nice matchup. D3. There's 2 Eastern District brackets. One's got Union Local and Fort Fry having a rematch of an earlier season game. I think it was UL's first loss. And the winner of that will advance to the region. And then on the opposite side, you have Highland facing Cambridge. Highland's been more or less putting it to everyone. So, good luck to the Bobcats. That's a huge uphill climb for them. And Division 2, Indian Creek is in the district final as well. They'll be playing West Holmes. And then on the opposite side of that bracket, I believe Tri-Valley, and I forget who it is that they're playing. But, we got a couple teams still alive. As far as the boys' side, Cambridge plays tomorrow night at East Liverpool. I'm going to that one. Obviously, Fort Fry's still alive. Shenandoah's got a really nice team. They're the second seed in Division 4. They are playing Shadyside, actually. That should be a good game because Shenandoah's beat them twice. Both games are really close, and that should be a nice one to watch.
All right, now over here in West Virginia, as we already said, Wheeling Park has a lot of seniors, a lot of juniors. Actually, what Assistant Superintendent Jones told me, and he's a big basketball guy, he said that, the park team, the men's team or boys team, should have about 10 total players who are going to be able to contribute. So we'll see, park play a factor in the OVAC and also here in the region. What about the other teams over here? Let's start with the boys, Mike.
Central should have a really nice team. I know Respec really made a name for himself this summer on the AAU circuit and is getting a lot of attention, and rightfully so. And they're opening up with Charleston Catholic, and I believe they have Satterfield that's signed to play with West Liverpool next year. So that should be a nice test for them to open up. I think Park opens with Parkersburg South. I didn't see who Lindsley opens up with, but Park and Central both should have really good years as far as the boys go.
And what about other teams, or are you just concentrating on Wheeling? What about John Marshall? What about those teams?
I can tell you about the girls, but I didn't really follow a whole lot of boys basketball last year, just the nature of my job. So
Right. The girls, they're ready to have a pretty decent season as well through up and down this northern panhandle. So, it'll be nice to see the student athletes finally get out there. It's going to be quick. They could play every other day, depending. And if something like a positive case comes into play, they could be shut down for 2 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Of course, Ohio County Schools, and we broke this story on LEDE, Ohio County Schools decided in mid-March to go to a 5-day-a-week in-person schedule with about 19% of the students remaining in virtual, whether it was a student or their parents. 19% of approximately 5,000 students will remain virtual for the last 11 weeks of the academic year.
More power to them if they can do it. But I'm glad my daughter's back in school 5 days a week.
Yeah, I know. All right, Mike, I do thank you for the time this afternoon. Kay, thanks for letting me borrow Dad for a little bit. Go get your Xbox, go to Quaker Steak and Lube. Pretty good place up there. And
Garoppolo wings.
You guys have a good evening. Mike, thanks again. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome, Steve. Have a good one.
All right, thank you, sir. Mike Hughes, ladies and gentlemen, one of the main writers with LEDE News. We'll go ahead and take the bottom of the hour break. The stream will continue, but we're gonna go ahead and take a break. Erika Donaghy, she is the co-publisher of LEDE News. She's the one with all these podcast networks. I'm telling you, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, Google, Apple, iTunes. We're live on TuneIn, also archived on TuneIn, and we're also on Listen Now. We'll talk to Erika about exactly how she did all that so quickly. I'm Steve Novotney. It is Steve Novotney Lives right here on LEDE News. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I'm Steve Novotney. I'm Steve Novotney Lives. The National Weather Service saying tonight, cloudy skies early, then off and on rain showers overnight. Tonight's low will be down to 42 degrees. Winds out of the south 10 to 15 miles per hour. Chance of that rain about 60%. Now tomorrow, rain showers early on with overcast skies later in the day. A high right around 60. Winds out of the west 10 to 15 mile per hour. Chance of that rain as well, 60%. And then tomorrow night, Saturday, it looks like rain developing after midnight. We'll have a low of 43 and an 80% chance of that showing up. And then your Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit rainy. could total about a half an inch. We'll have a high of 59, and then Sunday night, a few more showers in the area and a low of 38. Let's go to the co-publisher, co-founder of LEDE News, LEDeNews.com. Of course, I'm talking about my dear friend Erika Donaghy. Erika, welcome to the program.
Hi, how have you been?
Well, I don't know if you heard all of Tom Howard's interview, but at the beginning, Tom told us that since Sunday night, when I launched the fake news story about a ghost being found at Roney's Point, that he's received a lot of calls from people who think it's real.
I heard that. That's pretty funny. I mean, you know, people are they're gonna believe.
Yeah, I know. Here's why I've continued it this week, though. The reaction. I mean, the reads were okay. The reads were pretty good. Oh, wait, I just got a note. Turn on my camera. Sorry. Hi, guys. Yeah. You know, the camera, you know me well enough to know the camera is the last thing I care about. But, you know, the reads were good, but I got from a lot of people, so where's home? You know, because in the first, I'll call it chapter, you know, she appeared, she was the light inside the former asylum, and they found her. She turned to him and said, "Oh," and this is the only thing that the aboriginal said, "Take me home." Those 3 words, that's it. Take me home. So then I put out the second. I hate calling them chapters. I put out the second story yesterday. Third story's coming tonight, and then I'm finishing it tomorrow. And then Sunday night, as usual, at 7 p.m., I'll post a new fake news story. If it turns into a series, I doubt it, because the idea that I have now, Erika, is just it's pretty much a one-shot deal, because it's, well, I can't give too much away, but Sunday night will probably be it. But this ghost, I'm telling you, you know, it's got a lot of people super intrigued.
It'll be fun. Dispatch might be happy when it's all over, though.
Well, you know, I hope they're not calling Sheriff Howard via dispatch. I didn't ask him that question. But, you know, I told Tom, I told John and Drage, hey, I'm going to start this on Sunday in case anybody contacts you. And if you really, really think about it, as the sheriff in the story has said, his office is really the one and only office to deal with a real ghost.
Well, you never know.
I get asked a lot, how do you think up this stuff? I don't know. You know, I've written a ton about Roney's Point. I know a whole lot of the history, and, you know, and some people get mad at me because when they think the Schmolbach Mansion used to be the asylum, and I have to tell them, no, you know, the hospital opened for the TB epidemic back in 36. It was transitioned in the late 40s once TB was figured out, as we're all hoping COVID gets figured out finally, and this pandemic can end. It was transitioned into for patients with a new issue, mental illness. And back in those days, thank goodness we don't do this anymore, but back in those days, you locked them away. You removed them from society, and you locked them away. And that's truly sad to me. But, you know, I researched it. I've written about it. People get a kick out of that kind of stuff. So I decided, finally, all the rumors were true. They found a ghost.
There you go.
Why not? All right, now, my first question for you, young lady, is they're going 5 days. I'm talking about Ohio County Schools. LEDE broke that news yesterday. They're going 5 days, but your 2 children will remain part of that 19% that is choosing to stay virtual.
Yeah, and you know, at this point, to try to even like transition, just honestly, it's more upheaval than it's worth for us. And I don't have a vaccine. My husband doesn't have a vaccine. I'm rather safe than sorry. And if you want to run around and do whatever you're going to do, that's fine. But I'm taking precautions that I feel necessary. We've been successful. I mean, at the very beginning, it was rocky with the technology and getting everything to work.
Oh yeah.
But my kids are pretty good. I think throughout all of this, one of the biggest things that they've learned is more independent study, because I do work from home, but I still have to work. And it's been easier if they have any issues. They just walk, hey, I don't understand this, or hey, can you explain this in a different way? And it's given me more of an insight into their curriculum and been able to take them, kind of enrich what they were doing anyway.
Sure, yeah.
So
and
it's been all right.
Go ahead.
Oh no, it's they've had more free time, and then because they're interested in what's going on, they've used some of those other modules and things that are offered on there that they aren't necessarily assigned, just because they're interested, and so they'll sit there and listen to science videos, or Liam and science videos. He'll watch that all day.
Right.
And extra social studies, and gives them some time to pursue some extra interests, I guess.
Yeah, and and listen, I know you guys there were some struggles, and but you've handled those, and you being home, not all of the time, but most of the time, you've been able to handle it. A lot of moms, a lot of dads, they can't go about working per se the same way as you and your husband have.
Oh, and I actually just had a discussion about this with my kids last week. I said, that not everybody can stay home with the kids. That's why they are, the kids are at school. Mom and dad have to go somewhere. They have to work where the kids can't be. 10, 12 years ago, I said, I want to be able to be there and do certain things. And my skill set, I can do from home.
Right.
Luckily, that just luck of the draw. I'm happy for it. I'm grateful for it. But there's a million other jobs out there you cannot stay at home and do. Doctors and nurses and I mean, just so many other things. So it's fine for us, but not fine for everybody. So I get that.
Right. Now, do you think, and we're going to get into many other topics here very shortly, do you think they'll transition back to in-person instruction well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're still, they've had some interactions like webinars with some of the other kids and the teachers. My kids are pretty social. We're very lucky that, they're not backward in any kind of way. So, and they've done a lot of, there's kids' Facebook Messenger. So they can get on the kids' Facebook Messenger and have video time with their friends. So it's not like they haven't seen anybody. They've gotten on and done homework sometimes with friends. They get on, they play games and stuff like Minecraft and whatever else, Roblox or whatever it is they're playing. So, I mean, they're still social, and they're on the phone calling them. And, has it been a little interesting? Yeah, but, we just kind of roll with punches.
Right. Erika Donaghy, ladies and gentlemen, the co-founder, co-publisher of LEDE News, also the proprietor of the original PJ's Pizza down in New Martinsville. If you're traveling down there, trust me, get it. Now, let me read the list again. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, maybe it's grown because Erika Donaghy has not stopped since Steve Novotney Lives on LEDE News, started about 2 weeks ago. Spotify, I'm told now, I'm an old guy. I do Facebook, but I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. But I'm told Spotify is a big score.
It is, yeah. I definitely gathered all my resources together and just kind of, hit the electronic pavement, I guess, and really sat down hours and hours and hours just making sure we got out there.
Right.
You know, it's not you build it, they'll come. You gotta let people know where it is.
Right, right, right.
So, and everybody has their own favorite apps and their own favorite ways to have things work. So, you know, to just have it on only Facebook or only YouTube or, you know, only this or that just doesn't work for everybody. Some people have iPhones, some people have Android phones, some people want to see videos, some people don't. So, really made the big effort to get it out there everywhere I could.
Also, Podbean, as you said, YouTube. We're on Google, Apple, iTunes. We're live on TuneIn. And Listen Now. Have you added any more since since we made that list?
We are pending with Google Podcasts.
Okay.
Okay, you said Apple, Podbean, and Spotify, right? We're pending with Amazon and Pandora because those just take a little bit longer. And we are on iHeartRadio, Player FM, and Listen News. We say we are. You are.
No, it's Stephen Novotney Lives by LEDE News. So we are on both TuneIn and iHeart?
Yes.
Okay, and is it live on iHeart like it is on TuneIn?
No, it waits till I upload the feeds.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because I cut out all the, you know, the breaks and everything. And so, you know, people that are just listening don't have the in-between time.
Right. Well, I mean, Facebook Live alone has, you know, the numbers have been humbling, quite frankly, Erika. You know, I heard, you know, for 6 months, you know, we got to get you back here, we got to get you there, but, you know, so on and so forth. We miss you. The community misses you. I did need to take a break, but you know that, you know, as soon as their whole change of direction decision was made, you and I talked very quickly after that, and I told you flat out, let's go with the podcast. Then I found that, you know, I wanted to concentrate on a lot of writing. I did. And then the time finally arrived, you know, pretty much at the 6-month point. All right, you know, it's time to do both again, just like I was before. It's time to do both again. You know, let's get people like Ohio County Sheriff Tom Howard out to the people so they can hear the news like they heard today. Of course, Tom said the prevention resource officer has been removed. Not his decision, the decision of Ohio County Schools. And, you know, Tuesday is D-Day as far as the Sheriff's Department's budget. Will there be prevention resource officers in those classrooms next year? That's a big question, and I hope a lot of parents are going to ask about those.
You know, this is today was the first I heard of it, and that's all of Ohio County. Every school, am I correct?
I mean, they're not in every school, but they're in like 6 or 7 of them.
Well, I know that there's somebody at my kid's school. I don't know if they're there constantly, but
some
obviously
of them
the high
do rotate,
school.
Erika. Like there's 2 deputies up at Wheeling Park that are there every day. The PRO, the Prevention Resource Officer that was assigned to Middle Creek, also took care of 4 DARE schools. That's the drug class that students in all the local schools take. You know, with his removal, he's back on patrol. You know, the kids, the parents, they're asking a lot of questions there. But now, again, there's a chance that we won't have a cop in a single public school in Ohio County following a year, despite the pandemic, where we saw the most mass shootings in the country.
You know, it boggles my mind. I just don't know. I know there's always money and politics involved, but I mean, are we all just turning a blind eye to this trend that has been going on for 20 years now in this country? I don't even know, are there safety devices to keep the doors closed on these classrooms? I mean, there's not a police officer.
Well, I can tell you this, Erika, you know, a concentration on the school bond projects, and there's a lot of work taking place in a lot of schools. You know, a concentration was safety, was protection. and separate entrances, areas that are labeled man traps, things like that. So Tom told us, and I believe you heard it, but Tom told us if it can be in his budget, it will be, but it's the decision by the higher ups at Ohio County Schools to make whether or not they want them or they don't want them. It was the school system, according to the sheriff, it was the school system that decided they didn't need a PRO at Middle Creek Elementary anymore.
Why? Is it funding?
Tom said something about some higher up saying that nothing ever happens in elementary schools. That came from Tom Howard, the sheriff.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think we all know that's not true.
Well, as I told Tom during the interview, 2 words, Sandy Hook.
Yeah. And that's not the only one, of course. I believe there was, way back, even, there was one in Cleveland schools, I think. Some woman opened up fire just on the kids outside.
That's why I don't like the whole man trap thing. How about we just name it shooter trap? I think guys are getting a bad rap.
I remember when my kids, like when my oldest was just old enough to go to school, and I just remember the sick feeling I had, thinking, I'm not there with them. Of course, and that's the mom thing, and you're sending your baby off to school, but it was more of a safety thing. It just scares me. I don't sit there and think about it every day, obviously, or obsess about it, but, there has to be some kind of solution. Having police presence, yes, is the short-term solution. There needs to be a mental health solution in our society, obviously. But we have to make sure the kids are protected immediately.
Right.
And I'm sure just having police presence there also makes the kids know that they have somebody to go to if maybe things aren't okay at home.
Well, and we talked a lot about that. There's a difference between prevention resource officers and resource officers, and one of them is that a PRO has more interaction with the kids, and they teach, and they watch the trends, so to speak. And that's something Tom and John Schultz, the chief deputy, said during their 6 years being PROs. Not only did John take care of a gun in the school he was protecting, but a lot of kids went up to Tom and John and say, "Hey, can I talk to you? I have an issue at home," things like that. And I don't know. There's that relationship, Erika, between people and law enforcement, and it's been quite strained. We know that.
Yes. And so why take the police officers out of the schools where they can develop a relationship and start to mend some of those issues? Why pull them out of there?
Listen,
some of these kids,
it's not a done deal yet. It's a done deal at Middle Creek. It's not a done deal across the system. That is something we'll find out early next week, and of course we'll talk about it here on SNL. Erika, any more growth, any more podcast networks that you're going to throw at me?
Oh, some of them just take longer than others. Pandora, I said Audible from Amazon. I don't know. Depends on what I come across, and if anybody has any suggestions or favorite players out there, then absolutely email us. info@leadnews.com. It's LEDENEWS.com.
Right.
And I will do my best to get it on there. We're also on all kinds of different RSS feeds. We are on like Reddit and I'd have to really think about it. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We did talk about Spotify. We're on Tumblr. We're on Twitter. Of course, YouTube. So yeah, we're out there.
All right, send me a list so I can keep it.
Yeah, it's extensive. I couldn't, without looking at it, I could not just rattle them off the top of my head.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I've got to have them written down. All right, hey, thank you. Go tell the kids I said, hey, tell your Your husband, I said hey, and of course we'll talk. Well, we always talk. You know that.
Right.
All right. You have a good evening. I'm sure we'll talk in a little while. I'll get that stuff sent to you as soon as we can get finished, okay?
All righty.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Erika Donaghy, again, co-founder, co-publisher of LEDEnews.com. That's going to do it for us this Friday, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be back Monday, Wednesday, Friday of next year. Going to have a couple of surprises for you. Trust me on that. We're going to have a lot of fun. So until Monday, we'll have more Steve Novotney Lives on LEDE News on Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Until then, God bless you, folks. We'll talk again.